Hi, it's Kevin from AppMap. I'm going to talk about how to auto-magically generate sequence diagrams of your code's runtime behavior. Sequence diagrams are frequently described as the best part of UML. They're easy to understand with objects flowing across the page from left to right and time flowing down the page top to bottom. This makes them one of the best tools for developers and technical non-developers to use when discussing code design. Historically, creating a sequence diagram required specialized software, but with the everything is code movement, there are tools like PlantUML, which enable you to write some fairly basic code and generate sequence diagrams from that. Doing that, though, you still are writing documentation, and so you still have to worry about the Achilles heel of documentation, namely getting out of date. So what if you could have the best of both worlds? Sequence diagrams without having to create them manually. That's what I'm going to demonstrate here. So a sequence diagram illustrates a particular code flow, like an HTTP request or the processing of a job. So in order to generate a sequence diagram from code execution, the first thing we need to do is run some code. So over here in VSCode, I have a project called the Rails sample app, and I'm using this extension called AppMap, which is something that I've created. So there are two ways to generate data. I can either run my test cases or I can interact with the app directly to generate the data. I'm going to run the Rails test command, and with AppMap installed and configured here, it's going to run my test cases and populate the app maps over here on the left-hand side, or in this case, bring them up to date. So now I have the data that I need to generate app maps. I also need to get the PlantUML jar file, because in this preview version, I have to bring my own PlantUML. So I've already downloaded it, and I've put it in this path and set that up inside VSCode. So now it's basically ready to go. With that done, I can then go over here to one of my app maps. This, if you haven't seen this before, this is showing the code dependencies for a particular test case. I can click into those to see the actual code execution trace and everything from the HTTP status code to function names and even SQL queries. So I'm going to get a representation of the same flow as a sequence diagram by right-clicking here and choosing Generate Sequence Diagram. So I'll get a couple options. I'll just accept the defaults. Initially, you see the loading indicator, and then in my browser it pops up a sequence diagram of this flow with, let's take a look at what that looks like. So inbound from the left is an HTTP server request. The code flows through the controllers package, through helpers, models, views, and into the database and back. So every function call is represented by a left to right arrow with a label of either the route, the function name, or the query. And then when a function returns a value, that's or a status, that's represented here by these dotted return arrows. So in this particular test case, there's more than one request made to my server. So you can see that the sequence diagram continues with more flows. And when code is repeated, it's placed inside of this loop box, which is part of the sequence diagram spec, and it shows me how many times this particular flow is actually happening. To get started, you can download the AppMap extension from the VS Code Marketplace. Just open the Extensions tab and type AppMap, and when you do that, it'll pop open these instructions here that you can then follow to get your project configured, and before long you'll be making sequence diagrams of your own. Thanks.